Okay, what is your name?
My name is Esther Ceja.
Okay, so today I'm going to ask you some questions of what it was like being a Mexican American. What was your experience growing up as a Mexican?
I grew up in a pretty small farming community in southern Idaho, where my graduating class of 350 consisted of 50 Latinos. So there weren't very many of us. There weren't very many of us.
What was it like being a first gen in college, and what was the struggle that came with it?
Navigating college was interesting in that my parents had limited education, and so they were unable to provide guidance on how to prepare. And then financially, they couldn't afford, as farm workers, they couldn't afford to pay for our college. So.
What was the biggest culture shock for you?
I think the biggest culture shock came when I was in college, and several of my friends talked music, and I realized that I had grown up in a household where most of the music that I listened to at home was Spanish music, and then I felt like I lost, or I was not part of the 80s and some of the 90s music scene. So in college, I realized that, and I ended up taking a rock and roll and pop culture class to kind of gain some of that knowledge that was lacking.
How does ICE and immigration make you feel, and how has it personally affected you?
I think today, in the state of the world that we're living in, specifically in the U.S., ICE and immigration are a very challenging topic. I wish that there was more compassion and understanding of the various populations that reside in the U.S., from immigrants like my parents to refugees and asylum seekers. They're not here to take people's jobs. They're here to bring their families to safety in some instances, to bring them to safety. Folks are coming here for a reason. They're coming here because their countries are in a state of violence and uncertainty, economic uncertainty. We have climate that's impacting countries, that's leading people to move. And I wish that the current administration had a more compassionate approach.
Okay, a final question. What is your favorite thing about being Mexican?
I love my culture. My first language is Spanish, and most people say like, well, your first language is Spanish. I can't believe that you don't have an accent. Well, I don't have an accent, but I still speak Spanish with my parents, and I still thoroughly enjoy listening to music in Spanish and dancing. And I also enjoy speaking the language. I feel like certain terms spoken in my native Spanish have more meaning and more depth than if I just said them in English.